My name is Laura, and I am a stay-at-home wife. And oh, yeah, I take care of my husband who has been paralyzed for 3 years plus. This was directly related to when he had a heat stroke as a field engineer. During one hot day in an open field fortnight, he actually passed out while on duty. Over this, he collapsed, and when he was on top of a 3-story building, in his stand to fall, heavily falls. This caused the commotion, and luckily, he was brought to hospital immediately. The most heartbreaking day of my life. The phone was barely on the verge of receiving a call, and my whole body started shaking. I was floored by what I heard, but I also could not take the chance of what would happen to my husband. What if we lose him? I got the hospital details and rushed there immediately. To my surprise, my mother-in-law beat me. She was being hysterical and panicky as hell. Martha, calm down. Everything will be okay. My son is dying, and you want me to be cool? Are you insane? She shouted at me. I'm not shocked at all. I am well accustomed to the fact that she finds me absolutely bloody irritating. It is either abusive or nagging. Fuck you. I do not even care anymore. Although, truth is I always want to talk back her, but what does it achieve? So, instead, the quite stiff upper lip. My husband was held for nearly 2 weeks. I stayed by his side and did everything he needed for a week. I was adamant that I needed to look after him, and obviously he is my husband, so why wouldn't I be hands-on? I have to be there for him when he needs me most. But on the 2nd week, my mother-in-law said that she will do everything. She said for me to get back to work and save up money because the bills were only going to start piling in. Who knew how long he was gonna have to stay in that hospital? I said it was okay and that I would not go to work. My husband needs me during his recovery. One who wanted me to be with her so badly. The doctor added that he is stable now. No worries, I will watch him so you can go to work tomorrow. It's fine. I already filed a leave of absence from our boss. He understands my situation. No, you too. Of course, this time imagine my surprise when she actually answered. Why was she so mad? But I have a 2 weeks work leave, so my boss said it's okay. You have to work, so go. I was following her against my will. Maybe she just wanted some mom alone time with her son, and maybe also was legitimately a little bit worried about the money. The following day, I went to the office. I dedicated all my time and soul to what I did. All my office mates were amazed I showed up that day. Every one of them knew the gravity concerning my husband. So, I told them that for the finances, there is a lot of extra work needed from me. My boss was kind enough to give me higher pay this month just so I can have funds not only for the hospital bill, but everything that would help him recover. Unfortunately, inch by excruciatingly slow inch as the doctor relayed his many test results back to us, half of my dad's body was going paralyzed. I'm afraid I have some bad news for you, Mrs. Thompson. After your husband took a nasty spill down the stairs last night, he has experienced partial paralysis of his right side as well. Still, there is hope to reverse this. Thank God, doctor. Thank you. I am the mother of Ethan, and I know that you are doing all within your power to relieve him. Do whatever is in your power. I have no idea what the doctor said after that last part. My mother-in-law cut him off. But the one thing I'll know, my married man is paralyzed. He will be on his back for the rest of days. My heart sank. I could not imagine him having to go through this. I hate to see him like that. The mother-in-law demanded that she should be staying with us because her son needs to personally care for his own affairs while I go out there and be one of the men. Well, maybe that is a sincere and true act that I also don't want to bother her as she gets old too. We could pay for a private aid, but she would insist she was going to do it. So, in that case, as soon my husband got discharged, there was an instant arrival of mother-in-law. 3 anus grill ago, my husband was involved in a tragic accident. We followed all the interventions and therapy he had to do in order for him to recover quickly, but nothing was happening. There was none at all. I have always worked for my family. That includes taking care of medical bills for my husband. It was my mother-in-law who accompanied to therapy sessions and took medication with him. Every time they were done at one, I would check in after the session and ask about what improvements my husband had made or whether any former wounds/injuries/health issues flared up. But every time she responded, "Better than the last one. No progress. There is no improvement." The doctor said, "Well, we need to do another session, etc. We always do 3-year session, and after all this time there is no progress." I said, "Is it the doctor or my mother-in-law?" I didn't want to feel unkindly toward her, but could not avoid doing so. But in the heart, as a family, I will not consider her evil. One weekend, I told my mother-in-law that she could take a break and sleep as much as needed to rest while I held the space for taking care of her son. I knew that I would feel this way each day for the rest of his life as I sat beside him, watching him live with paralysis. The war rages on each day, and it feels as if I'm always in a losing battle. I talk to him, give a description of my day, and everything that would register as another piece in the puzzle for every memory he had about me, because even if it doesn't all sync up, I remind him again how much so very special he is, but has still my husband. Sitting on a chair, clutching my husband lying weakly in pain on his bed. He was completely paralyzed and mute, suggesting his recovery looked grim. She seemed like that pillar of strength, especially during these trying times. She was our glue, but this little part of me began to suspect, a native intuition reminding me how it has never sounded right. One time I came home from work before fucking 9 p.m. I quickly went to my husband's room, but just as I reached there and was about to enter, I could hear that voice of mother-in-law talking with someone. Now, unless I'm completely off my rocker, and perhaps even if that's true, I swear, I heard my husband say something too. They talked amongst themselves, so I dashed for the door. I went to open it, but the door was closed. I started trying to open the door by holding onto its knob and knocking it, but my mother-in-law opened it after 2 minutes. I headed in, and as soon as I crossed it, everything felt back to normal. My husband was down with dextrose placed intravenously. Everything stood still. "Who were you talking to?" So then showed her the phone. She rolled eyes. "My friend. What about it?" I stopped myself from rolling my eyes and went to take care of my man. Her behavior is weird, and I am through putting up with it. My mother-in-law would at times try to completely take over my husband's care, refusing me access or even attending medical appointments herself. Her jealousy and protectiveness were starting to be a bit much. I felt something off about her. This does not make sense to me. Hence, I got Martha, it's mine. I want to do daily things like helping him out the door. This is my husband, please let me take care of him. Laura, I love you. I know that, but Hans has been in my care for the last few months and I know what's best for him. I get it, you have been helping him and I just want in. It's my duty as his wife. When my mother-in-law heard this, her expression became cold, and she whispered as if approaching closer to me. "You don't understand, Laura. I know what Hans needs. Believe me, I am looking out for his best interest." I was starting to get frustrated, but I kept my coolest. "Thanks, Brigade, for your amazing support, but I want to be massively involved in Hans's care. I would like to drive him to therapy and appointments. I want to be there for him." She narrowed her eyes, taking suspicion in every word. "Why are you intent on being along with us, Laura? Are you trying to manage everything? I've been the one mothering him, giving up my time and self-sacrificing." My heart sank. Her accusations hurt me. Why is she being so rude? That is my husband we are talking about. "Oh, I'm not holding anything over you, Martha. All I want is to step up and stand beside my husband. I love him, and I want to help him in any way that he can." Out of frustration, she pushed me away. In fact, I even fell to the ground because of how hard he hit me. "This is my son and you are an outsider, so don't tell me who you expletive. or what the hell you're going to do because I don't give a shit. He is my husband, and I must be in control of every single thing we decide on or do. I am his wife and I need to be consulted on anything there is that needs for my husband's recovery. Yet I feel like a mere spectacle, an anomaly. I could only hold my peace and ditch her in the act. You crazy, possessive bitch. She was one thing I had known right from the beginning, before either of us could tell you a single letter in each other's names. She is not to be trusted. She does not even tell me critical medical information. I was not told of one doctor's report because my mother-in-law will give me nothing. I knew something was going on behind my back, so one fine Sunday afternoon, I finally took things into my own hands, doing what my gut feeling was telling me. I got a hidden camera into my husband's room. I wanted to see why this type of behavior like that with her mother is happening. I put the tiny camera while her suggestive walk with my hubby on a chair in required afternoon gardening. I concealed it in a place that would escape their notice. I let it sit for a week, daydreaming about when the time came that I could go over what was on it and unlock all of its mysteries. My mother-in-law took my husband for one more therapy. God, I think there is something wrong with that session. As soon as they received the money of that session's fee, they left. She will not have that and told me to forget it. I am taking them. This would be a chance to listen finally to those tapes. It was the kind of footage that made my heart race in anticipation. My world shattered around me. IGSPD covering my mouth. There is no way this is real. I peered closer and saw my completely immobilized husband not on a bed, but instead walking around chatting with his mother. My chest began to pound, my whole body trembling, shaking in fear. But of all the lies, I did not see this coming. I blew up at my husband, like they were normal whenever I left them. I was overcome by shock and disbelief, and the tears sprung to my eyes. LDCOULDTHUILIETOME. Lucky for you it was one of those hidden camera shows, and there were a couple other places in your house that had microphones on the premises to pick up audio recordings. And then I got to listen in on their conversations. I don't have any energy left for absorbing whatever they were discussing. It pains me. The words that were coming out of their mouths felt like knives in my heart. This was light. I found out that my husband was recovered the first 5 months of his therapy, and they just made a fool out of me. Plus another tragic conversation that way too many of us are familiar with. TGENENTOFWAKTN. Was the money from Laura's account deposited to our covert business transaction less? Of course, my son. I've been doing it regularly. She won't suspect a thing. My husband winked and laughed. Excellent. She was furiously working while we lived our lives. We'll have everything our own way in no time. My money is going to them. They have been conspiring against me. This is the mother of all heartache. Into the camera, my husband chuckled. A devilish laugh. You really hit that pity card jackpot, didn't you? Laura took the bait. My mother-in-law snorted and sat, obviously pleased with herself for having busted the two of us. She said, and I thought we were so loving towards her, and she never knew waste for an escape beforehand. Escape? I mean, they're taking my money and making fun of me. This couldn't possibly stand. I watched as they again conversed over some dirt, capturing their incrimination on the hidden camera. We would have nothing left when our top secret business gets off the ground with Laura, to find out that she has been fooled. His mother nodded, their bond sealing with every word. Darling son, what a hoot to be in cahoots with you. It will stay our little secret, and Laura shall learn innocent as she is. As I finally realized how they had betrayed me, did my eyes flood with tears. I refused to be a victim anymore. We guess whatever lies you have told, will I'll rise again and take back what is mine. But something else even worse occurred to me as I watched the truth unfold before my eyes. I've been working hard to save up enough cash for my ailing husband's medical bills, but all that money has just gone down the drain on their little backroom project. And this hurt me the most. They squandered my earnings to get a business off the ground right in front of me, all while I believed it was an investment into my husband's health and good fortune. Even after many sessions, still my husband has not been returned. Ah, so this is why my mother-in-law wanted to take care of her son and no one else. I wanted proof of all this. When I heard the address of their secret business location, and since somebody asked where it was, thanks to God that he revealed his cards in one of our conversations, I visited his abode because they invited me. The construction was in progress, and without wasting more time I hurried to the spot. I had my phone in hand, and then walked around taking photos of their lies, exposing them as the cheats they are. The only written legacy of these traitors would be their photos. I didn't want to leave it at that. Anger raced through me, and a hunger for retribution. I wished them to truly feel the ache and shame they brought about unto me. So I meticulously plotted my revenge, which I would execute on the day of my next birthday party. This monstrosity cannot be allowed to take hold. I want everybody to know what they did. The day came and I greeted my guests, including my husband and mother-in-law. They had no idea the storm that was about to descend upon them. And I could not see pity wash over me from my husband now. There he sat in a wheelchair, not an ounce of shame or guilt. I craved the satisfaction of bringing clarity into their darkness. During the party, I stood in center and gathered everyone. The rest of the evening became a birthday celebration for me. It means the world to me. The audience erupted in cheers and thunderous applause, showing their love for you. Before we get the party started, I have a little surprise for all of you. I glanced at my husband and his mother, standing nearby faking calm. I have been working on a very special something, and I want to share these great news with you all tonight, because successes are meant to be celebrated with certain people in your life, which includes all of you. One of the big things I deposited was a large framed and covered sign. I mostly ripped off the cloth covering it, and there was a photo of my husband went with his mother doing some underhanded business. So me and the rest of his bandmates all started smiling like there was no tomorrow. My latest adventure. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the business I am now founding, A&D. I have managed to secure you all an invitation, LEDIES and GNTLEMEWSCONETUMINEWBUSINESSPLESJOINMENEXTWEK ORTHEGRANDOPNINGEVNT. My husband and mother-in-law were in shock, faces priceless, as the guests cheered me on. The mask they wore was falling apart in the company of our friends and family. My husband, in a frenzy of agitation, leaped up from his wheelchair yelling, "That is mine." All the people in that venue gasped. Others were puzzled or shocked with what they just saw. My husband, who is believed to be paralyzed, already got up and shouted his heart out. The guests made no sound, their eyes open and disbelieving. "Oh, Hens, you're mistaken. This is my business. You did spend all my money, remember? Playing games with me. You and your mom, I was so convinced you were paralyzed, when really you had already been made well. And that is the secret you just unveiled." This brought a murmur of whispers into the room. Then it clicked into place for people, and they started to see the deceit of which we all have been a part. Wait, Hens isn't paralyzed. Did he fake this the entire time? This sent my mother-in-law into a panic and even tried to take over the situation. It's not what you think. It can all be explained. Spare me the apology, Martha. Lies and deception, you and the EIAD. I drew a folder from behind the stage with pictures of their concealed business, extortion money, and joint hustle. Now everyone take a look at all of these pictures. That is the truth they kept from us. They built this business using my own hard-earned money without me knowing. The visitors saw the proof of guilt. They all wore their anger and disappointment on their faces. I am so sorry they abused your goodwill, Laura. They manipulated all of us. They should be ashamed. And then my husband, stricken with his own rage, and forgetting entirely his act of a moment ago, began moving. He was no longer frozen. Everyone had been caught off guard. The room fell to absolute silence. It was all her idea. My mother made me do it. I looked in Hen's face with sadness and anger. I trusted you, Hens. We were meant to take this on as a unit. The people around me expressed solidarity with our situation, which gave both my husband and mother-in-law the wake-up call they very much needed. Then they begged for mercy when the lies came unraveled. My mom dropped to her knees and begged for my forgiveness, with tears flowing down his face in humiliation. Meanwhile, my mother-in-law just stood there not swallowing her pride. She stayed proud and conceited. That was when I took my power back and walked away. I knew the house and I claimed it as my own. Same with his business. And slowly but surely, I got myself back. As though in response, I left them at the venue silent as a lamb. Enough is enough. I am finished with all you're censored. Their betrayal came with a high price, and I exiled them never to return. So I moved on from their manipulation and lies, began putting the pieces together to rebuild life. It was a search for happiness. The wounds they created would take time to recover, but I knew for sure that now I was getting ready to move on and never return, in a future of freedom without the shadows cast by lies.
I stared at the text on Trent's phone, my heart pounding as the words burned into my mind. I love it when you call me that. Can't wait for tomorrow. It was clearly not meant for me. We were supposed to be celebrating my big promotion over dinner, but now everything felt like a lie. Trent must have noticed the look on my face because he quickly tried to grab his phone back. "Mallory, it's not what you think," he stammered, his eyes wide with panic. I felt sick to my stomach, like I'd been punched in the gut. How could he do this to me? To us? After everything we'd been through together? Trent's sister Cassandra looked bewildered, glancing between us. "What's going on?" Before Trent could make up some lame excuse, I stood up abruptly, the fancy restaurant seeming to spin around me. "We're leaving. Now." The drive back to our apartment was agonizingly silent. I kept replaying that damn text over and over, my knuckles white from gripping the steering wheel. When we got inside, I finally exploded. "Who is she?" I demanded, rounding on Trent. "How long has this been going on?" He opened his mouth, but I cut him off. "Don't you dare lie to me." Trent's shoulders slumped in defeat. "It's been a few months. I'm so sorry, Mallory." A few months. While we'd been planning our wedding, looking at venues, he'd been sneaking around behind my back. Hot tears of anger and hurt streamed down my face. "I can't believe you," I choked out. "We're through." I stormed into the bedroom, slamming and locking the door behind me. I collapsed onto the bed, sobbing into the pillow until I had no tears left. That's when the anger truly set in, burning through me with white-hot intensity. Trent wanted to play these games? Fine. I would make him regret the day he ever betrayed me. This was not over, not by a long shot. The next morning, I woke up with a pounding headache and a burning desire for vengeance. Trent was still asleep on the couch when I emerged from the bedroom, looking pathetic and guilty even in his unconscious state. "Wake up," I snapped, startling him. He jerked awake, eyes widening as he took in my stony expression. "Mallory, I'm so—" "Save it," I cut him off coldly. "I don't want to hear any more of your lies and excuses." Trent swallowed hard, looking like a scolded child. Good. He should feel ashamed. "Who is she?" I demanded again. "I want to know everything." He hesitated, but one withering look from me made him crumble. "Her name is Jessica. We met at a work conference 6 months ago and—" He trailed off miserably. White-hot fury coursed through me at the thought of him carrying on an affair for half a year while I naively planned our future together. "Have you been using protection?" I asked through gritted teeth, realizing with horror that he could have brought home God knows what. Trent had the decency to look even more ashamed. "And no, I haven't." I felt dizzy with disgust and rage. This man I had loved, had trusted more than anyone, had lied to me, used me, disrespected me in the worst way. Something inside me hardened like steel. "Get out," I said in a low, dangerous voice. "What?" Trent looked stricken. "You heard me," I said coldly. "Get your stuff and get out of my apartment. We're done." He opened his mouth to protest, but I leveled him with a look that could cut glass. Shoulders slumping in defeat, Trent dragged himself to the bedroom to pack a bag. As I watched him slink out the door, I felt a dark sense of satisfaction take root in my heart. This was just the beginning. I would make Trent pay for what he'd done, no matter what it took. And by the time I was finished, his life would be in ruins. Over the next few days, I operated with cold, plus ruthless efficiency. I started by contacting a private investigator and giving them all the details about Trent's infidelity. I wanted every sordid detail of his affair exposed. Then I got to work gathering my own evidence. I dug through our old phone records, bank statements, anything that could reveal more about the depth of Trent's betrayal. With each new discovery, the flames of my fury burned hotter. Thankfully, I had an amazing support system in my friends. When I told them what that bastard had done, they were outraged on my behalf. "That piece of garbage!" Steph raged when I showed her the hotel receipts. "I'll kill him myself!" "You're too good for that lying snake," Dana seethed, wrapping a supportive arm around me. "We'll make him pay, I promise." Their unconditional love and loyalty gave me strength during those dark days. I wasn't just doing this for me. I was doing it for all the women who had ever been cheated on and mistreated by selfish men like Trent. With my friend's help, I formulated a plan of attack. First, we would systematically dismantle Trent's professional life by leaking proof of his indiscretions to his boss and colleagues. Then, we'd take down his social status by revealing his true nature to his smarmy country club pals. Finally, I would deliver the killing blow by crushing his ego and leaving him a pariah. By the time I was done, Trent Holden would be less than a memory. The thought of destroying him brought me a vicious sense of satisfaction. Still, a small part of me felt a twinge of sadness for the man I had once loved. I quickly shoved those feelings aside. Trent had made his bed, and now he could lie in it. My friends noticed my dark mood and tried to lift my spirits. "Let's go out tonight," Monica suggested brightly. "Get your mind off of things." I managed a small smile, grateful for their efforts to cheer me up. "Sure, why not? I could use a distraction." As we headed to our favorite club that night, I caught my reflection in a storefront window. My eyes burned with a hardness I didn't recognize. In that moment, I knew there was no going back. Revenge wasn't just something I wanted. It was something I needed, like air. And I would stop at nothing until Trent's world lay in ashes around him. With the evidence gathered by the private investigator, I was locked and loaded. It was time to start taking Trent down, one piece at a time. First, I anonymously sent a file containing proof of his affair to his boss at the investment firm. Explicit photos, receipts for secret hotel trysts, the works. I made sure to include a polite note about how such indiscretions could open the company up to sexual harassment lawsuits. A few days later, the hammer dropped. Trent was called into an emergency meeting and unceremoniously suspended pending further investigation into his unethical behavior. When I caught wind of the news from Monica, who worked in the same building, I allowed myself a small, satisfied smile. That was just a taste of what was to come. Next, I turned my sights to dismantling Trent's social status. I may have been raised working class, but I knew how important keeping up appearances was to that smarmy country club crowd he ran with. I created an anonymous email account and sent graphic details of his affair to the board members of his snobby golf club. I even included a few choicely censored photos just to rub salt in the wound. Within a week, Trent had been asked to resign his membership after several decades. Rumors spread like wildfire amongst the cuckolded housewives who ran those upper-crust social circles. But I wasn't done yet. If I wanted to leave Trent well and truly broken, I needed to completely decimate his ego and reputation in our community. That opportunity came at the next meeting of our neighborhood beautification committee, of all places. I haunted those meetings like a ghost, half listening as Trent pompously held court while the other wives and I rolled our eyes. When he launched into another blustery diatribe about the import of maintaining community values, I couldn't stop myself. "Speaking of values," I said loudly, cutting him off, "I have something to share about our esteemed committee chairman." You could have heard a pin drop as all eyes swiveled towards me. Trent paled, realizing where this was going. "Trent here has been having an affair for months," I proclaimed, holding up a manila envelope. "With proof." The explosion of gasps and outcries was a beautiful cacophony to my ears. Trent frantically tried to deflect as I read out the lurid details, but it was too late. His polished veneer of respectability shattered into a million pieces that day. And as I watched him crumble under the weight of his exposed lies, I felt like a goddess of vengeance. The game was oh so deliciously afoot. The next phase of my plan required a more public approach. I decided to strike at the next major charity gala our social circle always attended. It was the perfect stage to completely undermine Trent's crumbling reputation. As I got ready that night, I could feel the excited energy thrumming through me. This was the moment I had been meticulously preparing for. With each swing of the metaphorical sword, I'd been slowly severing Trent's ties to this community. Tonight, I would go for the killing blow. When we arrived at the fancy venue, Trent tried to put on a brave face. But I could see the flicker of fear in his eyes as he scanned the crowd, realizing the damage I'd already done. His usual sycophants were giving him a wide berth, whispering behind raised hands. I swept through the room like royalty, head held high. A server offered me a glass of champagne, which I accepted with a regal nod. The bubbles danced on my tongue as I sipped slowly, savoring the moment. Eventually, it came time for the speeches. A hush fell over the ballroom as the host took the stage to thank everyone for their generous donations. Then, almost as an afterthought, he gestured for me to join him. "We'd also like to acknowledge Mallory Greaves tonight," the host said as I ascended the steps, "for her outstanding leadership and community service over the past year." A smattering of polite applause broke out, but I could feel the energy in the room shift as people realized I was about to speak. Trent looked almost gray as our eyes locked. "Thank you all," I began, my voice ringing with poise and confidence. "It's truly an honor to give back to our community in whatever way I can." I paused, letting that magnanimous statement hang in the air for a beat. Then I went for the jugular. "Unfortunately, not everyone here tonight shares those same values of honor, integrity, and commitment. You could have heard a pin drop. Everyone watched with bated breath, and I could sense Trent's panic rising. Some put on a good show," I continued, holding his stricken gaze. "But behind closed doors, they lie, cheat, and betray the very principles this community was built on." A shocked murmur rippled through the crowd as people put two and two together. Trent looked like he wanted to melt through the floor. "Those are not my values," I said firmly, "and they should not be anyone's values if we want to create a society of trust and respect." The applause that followed was thunderous. I gracefully rejoined my table, leaving Trent to stew in humiliation. He tried to storm out, but another attendee blocked his way, loudly condemning his deplorable behavior. As the night raged on, I basked in the triumph of watching my revenge play out so perfectly. Trent deserved every ounce of scorn and embarrassment headed his way, and I was just getting started. After the charity gala, it was like a dam had burst. The evidence of Trent's misdeeds spread through our social circles like wildfire, burning everything in its path. Within days, he was indefinitely suspended from his job at the investment firm, pending further investigation into the mounting allegations of misconduct. His fair-weather friends at the country club didn't even pretend to be subtle. Trent's membership was permanently revoked. Meanwhile, I reveled in my newfound infamy, catching snippets of gossip everywhere I went. "Did you hear what that snake Trent did? Mallory is such a badass for taking him down like that." With each new story of Trent's downfall, I felt more powerful, more vindicated. This was justice being served. Of course, he tried to confront me to do damage control. Trent showed up at my door one night, eyes blazing with impotent rage. "What have you done?" He snarled as I calmly opened the door. "You've ruined my entire life." I simply raised an eyebrow, unfazed. "I'm just revealing the truth about who you really are. Everything you're going through is nobody's fault but your own." Trent's face contorted with anger, and he took a step forward, fists clenched. An empty threat. We both knew he didn't have the guts to actually hit me. "This isn't over," he spat. "I'll make you pay for this, you vindictive "I'd watch your tone if I were you." I cut him off coldly. "Your life is already in tatters thanks to your own despicable actions. Don't make it worse for yourself." With that, I shut the door in his stunned face, not even giving him the satisfaction of a reaction. Let him stew in the mess of his own creation for a while. In the coming weeks, the noose only tightened around Trent's neck. Gripped by morbid curiosity, I started collecting the articles and social media posts that detailed his spectacular fall from grace. There was the scathing editorial from the local paper, dressing him down as a modern-day cad, the deluge of Facebook and Twitter comments from former associates and friends, calling him every insult under the sun. His promising career was in ashes, his reputation forever stained. And to think, this was all just the beginning of what I had planned for him. As the public condemnation crescendoed, Trent started looking gray and haggard, like the life was being drained from him. Good. I wanted him to suffer, to feel even a fraction of the anguish and humiliation he'd put me through. When our mutual friend Monica invited us both to her housewarming party, I knew it was the perfect chance to twist the knife even deeper. I arrived early, greeting the other guests with my usual poise as Trent sulked in the corner, a pariah. This was going to be fun. The housewarming party was in full swing when Trent finally showed his face. As soon as he walked through the door, the atmosphere chilled. People stopped mid-conversation to gawk at the man who had become a public disgrace. Trent's eyes frantically scanned the crowd until they landed on me, holding court by the bar. A snarl twisted his features as he stalked over. "You just can't let this go, can you?" he hissed under his breath. "You've already taken everything from me. What more could you possibly want?" I simply smiled thinly and took a sip of my drink. "The truth will come out sooner or later, Trent. I'm just expediting the process." He opened his mouth to retort, but a sudden lull in the chatter made us both freeze. All eyes had turned towards us with undisguised interest. Seizing the moment, Trent puffed out his chest and raised his voice for all to hear. "Listen, everyone, I know there's been a lot of unfair rumors circulating about me recently, but I can assure you, they're just that, vicious lies perpetuated by a vengeful ex." A disbelieving murmur rippled through the crowd. Trent wasn't deterred, clearly hoping to sway the audience to his side through bluster alone. "Mallory is simply lashing out because she couldn't handle the end of our relationship like a mature adult. This campaign of defamation is nothing more than the unhinged actions of a woman scorned." My hand tightened around my glass as I felt the weight of dozens of accusing stares. How dare he try to play the victim? To rewrite the narrative as if he wasn't a lying, cheating snake? "Is that so?" A cool voice rang out from the back of the room. We all turned to see Monica pushing through the throng of onlookers, a familiar manila envelope clutched in her hand. Oh no, she wouldn't, would she? Trent seemed to realize the same thing, his face draining of color. "Monica, whatever you think you know—" "Save it, Trent," she said flatly, joining me at the center of the makeshift arena. "I have proof right here of everything. Bank statements showing your money trail to hotels and apartments for your little trysts, texts and emails between you and your mistress, even photos and video if anyone needs further convincing." A shocked silence fell over the party as Monica flipped open the envelope, letting a few incriminating photos spill out onto the counter. Up-close shots of Trent in compromising positions with his lover, leaving no doubt as to their indecent activities. "You make me sick." Monica snarled at the shell-shocked Trent, her eyes blazing with righteous fury. "How could you do this to Mallory, to all of us who considered you a friend?" She jabbed an accusing finger at the graphic evidence. "This is who you are, Trent. A liar, a cheater, a total embarrassment to anyone who ever trusted you. Mallory is done letting you get away with your lies and deceptions." A smattering of disgusted murmurs echoed through the crowd as they finally saw Trent for the vile snake he truly was. He looked around wildly, searching for any scrap of support or sympathy, but finding only scorn and revulsion. Shoulders slumped in defeat, Trent turned and fled the party without another word, disappearing into the night from which there would be no redemption. I watched him go with a mixture of pity and vicious satisfaction. The once proud man was now a hated pariah, and he had no one to blame but himself. Turning to Monica with a grateful smile, I pulled her into a fierce hug. "Thank you," I murmured, fighting back joyful tears. "For everything." This was the end of Trent Holden, and I had never felt more vindicated or powerful in my life. A few months later, I could finally breathe again. The cloud of anger and obsession that had consumed me after Trent's betrayal had lifted, allowing the sun to peek through once more. As I settled into my swanky new corner office at work, I felt a sense of pride and accomplishment. My hard work and perseverance had paid off. I'd been promoted to senior marketing director in the wake of the old director's abrupt resignation. Rumor was the scandal surrounding his colleague Trent had been the final straw that broke the company's tolerance for unethical behavior. I smiled wryly, knowing I had played more than a small role in that chain of events. These days, Trent's name was like a dirty word around town. He'd become a virtual pariah, unable to show his face without getting pelted with disgusted looks and whispers. Some nights when I was feeling nostalgic, I'd scroll through the countless think pieces and social media posts dissecting his downfall, my lips curling into a satisfied smirk each time. Entitled creep finally gets what he deserves. Massachusetts man revealed as lying, cheating scumbag. My personal favorite. Mythological furies have nothing on this scorned woman's wrath. The audacity of my revenge plot had become stuff of urban legend in certain circles. I didn't mind. Let the cautionary tale of what happened to Trent Holden serve as a warning for any other unfaithful creeps out there. My friends, of course, remained loyal supporters through it all. We'd crack open a bottle of cheap white wine and raise sarcastic toasts to Trent's increasing misery, to the disgraced dog finally being neutered, to Burns so sick they're going to need medical attention. Those nights filled with raucous laughter and female solidarity made the darkness of those first few weeks feel like a lifetime ago. I had found my voice, my power, and I refused to let any man make me a victim again. Still, there was one last bit of unfinished business with my wretched ex. One night, my phone pinged with a number I didn't recognize. "Mallory, it's me. I know you probably never want to speak to me again, but I need to see you, to apologize properly, face to face, for all the pain I caused you. Please, give me a chance to make things right." I stared at the message, letting the words wash over me. Part of me was tempted to meet him, if only to savor the sight of how far he'd fallen. The once cocky, arrogant Trent brought to his knees, begging for forgiveness he'd never deserve. But another part of me, the stronger part, knew there was no point in dredging up the past any longer, that Trent and all his lies and betrayals belonged to another lifetime that I had outgrown. With a decisive swipe, I deleted the message and blocked the number. That chapter of my life was over. Looking around my sleek new apartment with its stunning views, I felt a surge of liberation and excitement for the future. I was a new woman, forging her own story from the ashes of heartbreak and vengeance. And this time it would be one built on truth, on strength, on respect for myself above all others. Bring it on, world. I was more than ready.